This lesson covers the following topics: the virus scanning settings in Security Gateway, an explanation of the two antivirus engines Siren and ClamAV, how to handle infected messages, such as whether to delete them or quarantine them, configuration of quarantine settings, including handling of messages that cannot be scanned, flagging message attachments that have macros in them, configuring antivirus exclusions, and how to configure automatic and manual virus signature updates. Security Gateway can scan all inbound and outbound messages for viruses and malware, and those settings, those antivirus settings in Security Gateway can be found right here under the Security menu, under the Antivirus section right here. So we're going to talk now about the virus scanning settings and the antivirus updates. So first let's go to the virus scanning link here in Security Gateway. And before I discuss these options on this screen, if we scroll down to the bottom, note that Security Gateway has two antivirus engines that it uses to scan email traffic. It's got ClamAV and Siren. ClamAV is an open source antivirus toolkit that was designed especially for mail gateways. And Siren includes a couple of extra features. It includes the protection against viruses and malware and those types of threats, but it also includes outbreak protection to protect against the latest email-borne virus and spam threats and outbreaks of the latest threats. So we'll talk about these settings here in Security Gateway. And by the way, notice that you can configure these settings globally or on a per domain basis, just like you can with many of the other settings in Security Gateway. So by default, this top checkbox is enabled to enable the virus scanning features in Security Gateway. And again, this allows Security Gateway to scan all email traffic, inbound and outbound, for viruses. And then you can further determine what to do if the antivirus engine finds an infection, an infected message, determines that the message was infected. You can either refuse the message or quarantine the message. You might run into a situation where there are certain messages that cannot be scanned. And in those situations, you can check this box to quarantine those messages. Messages that cannot be scanned might, for example, be messages containing a password-protected zip file, for example. Those are some examples of messages that might not be able to be scanned. And because there are two antivirus engines, you can optionally check this box to allow a message to pass if one of those engines is able to successfully scan a message and the message was determined to be clean by that specific antivirus engine. This box is deselected by default. You can configure exclusions by checking this box here. So if you want to exclude, say, zip files, for example, you would put an asterisk to use as a wildcard for the file name plus the file extension. So asterisk, for example, .zip or .doc and things like that, clicking add after each one. I'm going to actually remove this one because I don't recommend having any exclusions in this list. I'm also going to uncheck the exclusions box here. And messages that are infected, Security Gateway can attempt to clean those infected messages if you check this box here. And you also have an option to flag attachments that contain documents that might have macros enabled. So in other words, for example, a lot of cybercriminals will send spam containing a Microsoft Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. And they'll use some type of social engineering to try to trick you into enabling macros to read the document. And a lot of the time, while there are maybe situations where these macros might be, harmless, in many cases, these macros, if you allow them to run, can unleash malware and do all kinds of damage to your system. So this option allows you to flag any of those types of attachments that might have macros and treat them as if they have a virus, at which point they can then be either deleted or sent to the quarantine for administrative review. You can configure exclusions for messages from whitelisted IP addresses or messages from your own domain mail servers, although we do not recommend configuring exclusions on the virus scanning screen especially. And as I mentioned, you have the option of using either or both of the two antivirus engines, Siren and Clam AV. And if you make any changes, if you have any exceptions, if you configure settings for a specific domain as opposed to globally, then those settings will be listed down here in the Exceptions Domains section right here. So of course, if you make any changes on the screen, we'll click Save to save our changes. And then, of course, you always want to make sure that you have the latest virus definitions so that Security Gateway can protect against the latest threats, the latest emerging threats and types of viruses. And you can configure that here by clicking on Configure Updates. And by default, Security Gateway will automatically update virus signatures at regular intervals. You can either have Security Gateway update those virus signatures every hour, say, for example, at 41 minutes after the hour, or you can put your own time frame here if you'd like, or you can click this link to generate a random time for it to update its virus definitions hourly, or you can choose this option to update virus definitions daily at a particular time of day. I certainly recommend using hourly so that Security Gateway gets the latest virus definitions in as close to real time as possible to protect against the latest threats, especially considering the current threat landscape where threats are evolving at a fairly rapid pace. You can also use this link here to immediately force a check for updated virus signatures. So if you need to update right away, you can update your virus signatures by clicking on this link here. And if you need to verify that your antivirus engines are updating according to schedule and that they are using the latest virus definitions, you can view the update logs for either ClamAV or Siren. So I can view, for example, ClamAV antivirus engine updates by clicking on this link here to view the ClamAV update log file. So here on the ClamAV update log, you have a record of all of the update events that have taken place. So for example, the ClamAV update process was started at this particular time. And then if the virus definitions are up to date, the database is up to date, it'll let you know here, and it'll tell you what version of the database you have, how many virus signatures you have installed, and any other information here. So this lets you know that your virus definitions are up to date. If there are any problems, if anything is out of date, that information will be listed here. If Security Gateway has any problems contacting the update server, or any problems updating or syncing the latest virus definitions, you'll have some kind of an error message here letting you know what has happened. So you can always check here to make sure that your virus definitions are updating successfully.